This video will show you how to replace the master cylinder on a Chrysler 300. This will be located along the driver's side of your engine compartment. Let's get into it. Okay friend, let's get started on our job. Locate the master cylinder just underneath this panel. To be able to gain access and remove it, we're going to remove this plastic panel from along the top area here. To remove this plastic panel, you're also going to have to remove each one of your two wiper arms and blades. For that, prior to removing it, I like to use a piece of masking tape up along my windshield so I know exactly where my wiper blades are going to sit during the installation process. Now for either one of our wiper arms, you're going to remove them by first removing your protective cover. Under that, you're going to find a mounting nut. A quick note about these wiper arms is once you do have them off, you want to make sure you have them marked or at least set in an area that you know exactly where each one of them goes. They are a little different. To remove the cap, I'm just using a small pocket screwdriver. That should slide out of place fairly easily. We'll use a 15mm for our mounting nut. It's a good idea to use some penetrant in this area. Now there is a wiper blade arm removal tool that you could use. If you don't have access to one of those, typically you can get away with just grabbing hold of the wiper arm. We're going to rock it side to side, breaking it free and lifting it up and away. You can see that I do have movement. One quick thing to focus on here is when we do lift it, you want to be extremely careful along this hinge joint right here. This is under spring pressure and you don't want to get pinched or hurt. You can see that that does pivot. We'll set this aside, repeat the process for the opposite side of the vehicle. Now we'll focus on removing the panel itself. You'll find that the panel has several push clips. Along the outsides, you're going to have a push clip that you have to carefully remove the center to unlock it, and then the rest of it should lift up and out as well. As you make your way across, these typically will just be lifted up and out of position. For this, I'm just using a trim tool. You can use pretty much anything as a small prying device, even a flat blade screwdriver if necessary. Now, since this clip did come apart, it's not broken. I'm just going to slide it back in together, but I'm leaving it in the unlocked position. Now I'll continue on, making my way across the entire front of this towards the other side of the vehicle. Making our way across here. You'll find towards the passenger side, the push clips are a little different, so we'll just remove those as necessary. On this application, I'm starting to remove the center to unlock it just as before. Now there is one tucked into this corner right here. It's a little difficult to see. Just try to pry it out of place. Now that we have all the push pins out of place, if you were looking up along either corner next to the windshield, you're going to find that you have another mounting point. Now as far as this one, you can only see along the top, but underneath there's actually a small hook that will spin and make its way underneath the windshield area. Now for this, you could either use a flat blade or a Phillips head screwdriver, whatever works best for you. It's common for this to have an issue where it does not pivot. If that's the case, you're going to carefully have to reach underneath this area with a finger, or you can use an angled pick and turn the small hook. I'll show you what it looks like once we get it off of here. There we are. All right, so now both sides are freed up. Let's continue on to carefully removing this. Obviously, we don't want to break it, and we especially don't want to cause any damage to our windshield. Now with that panel out of the way, we have a clear view of our master cylinder reservoir and the master cylinder itself. Inside that master cylinder reservoir there is going to be fluid. It's a good idea to have something underneath this area to collect any fluid as necessary. For this I'm just going to use a small pad. You can use pretty much anything. Now that I've completed that, we're going to remove the master cylinder cap. Prior to removing it, I like to give it a quick wipe just to remove any miscellaneous debris from along this area. Turn the cap counterclockwise, we'll lift it up, a quick inspection of that, we can set it aside. Now inside this area, as I mentioned, that's where the brake fluid is. We're going to try to remove as much of it as possible. I have a fluid extractor. Once you've removed as much fluid as possible, we're just reinstalling our cap. Let's have a look down along the driver's side of the master cylinder reservoir. You're going to find an electrical connector for your fluid level sensor. In the center along the top, there's a small locking tab. We're just going to press that down and we should be able to slide this out of place. If you can't do it by hand, you can carefully try pressing with something like a screwdriver or even a pick. Once you have it disconnected, a quick inspection for corrosion. I don't see any here, this looks good. We'll continue on. Now in this same area, you can see two brake lines. We're going to remove the pair. Keep in mind there is fluid still inside the master cylinder and some may make its way out. We don't want to get any on a painted surface. If you do, make sure you rinse it down with some clean water. We'll be using a 14mm for each one of our brake line fittings. Now we can see fluid making its way out. We're collecting it as we need to. Let's continue on to the other line. Same process here. Now let's let this finish draining. We'll make sure we take care of as much of this fluid as possible before continuing on. Now as you can see, I have both lines out of my master cylinder. Continuing on, you're going to find that you have two pieces of 13mm hardware holding this in place. A 13mm nut on the outboard side, on the driver's side here. And then on the inboard side, you're going to have another 13mm mounting nut. That one's a little bit harder to gain access to, so that's where I'll start. Let's move along to that outboard mounting nut next. We'll take hold of the master cylinder and reservoir, slide it straight forward, away from our brake booster, and we'll remove it from the vehicle. Keep in mind there could still be fluid in that master cylinder. There it is, friend. Now, prior to installation of any part, of course, we need to make sure we clean and inspect the mounting surface. For this, the first place we want to focus on is our brake booster. We can see our circular port where the master cylinder slides in and through. We want to make sure that there's no fluid inside of the brake booster. That's very important. Aside from that, you also want to make sure there's no miscellaneous debris. We'll just have a quick peek inside. There is no fluid in here. That's a good sign. I'm going to give this a quick wipe and a thorough inspection. We're confirming there's no debris that might make its way inside of this braking system. Now, while we're in this same area, let's also make sure we clean and inspect both of our brake lines. If it looks like the fittings or the lines themselves are rotted or damaged in any way, you want to go ahead and replace them. You don't want a brake fluid leak. Now, all this looks good, so let's prepare for the installation. Okay friend, let's get started on our job. Typically you'd want to bench bleed your master cylinder, removing any air from in the system if you have the proper fittings. If you don't, you can still use the brake lines and fittings that are attached to the vehicle. I'll show you how. Prior to installing this into the vehicle, we've already cleaned the body of the vehicle, but we also need to pay attention to this area of the master cylinder itself. We have a small seal here. We're going to apply a thin amount of lubricant in this area, and then we'll slide this into position on the body of the vehicle. We'll start bringing this master cylinder down towards the body of the vehicle. As we attempt to align this, let's make sure we do not cause any damage to our brake lines. You should find that that slides right into place. Now, once we have it flush with the brake booster, located just behind the master cylinder, go ahead and start on each of your two mounting nuts and then lightly button them out. That one's snug. I'm going to go ahead and snug the other one real quick. Now that we have each of those snug, we're going to torque them to 133 inch-pounds. This one over here. There we are. At this point, I have both pieces of hardware torqued, so the master cylinder will not move away from that brake booster. Let's continue on with our two brake lines next. As for those brake lines, we want to, of course, start them in by hand. We do not want to cross-thread them into the wrong positioning. Now, you really shouldn't have to worry about mixing up these two brake lines. They should be set in the proper orientation. Just line them up, start them in by hand like I mentioned. Okay. Now I've got that one bottomed out by hand. I'm going to use my wrench and I'm going to lightly snug this. I don't want to over tighten it in any way. We will be re-loosening this so we can bleed the braking system. Now let's do the same to the other line. Once again, just lightly snugging it. With both lines snug, we're going to continue on with topping off our master cylinder with clean brand new .3 brake fluid. After that, we're going to start bleeding the air out of the master cylinder. We'll remove the cap by turning it counterclockwise. Clean .3 brake fluid. Let's go ahead and top this off. Once you have that topped off, just reinstall your master cylinder cap. Now that we have our master cylinder reservoir topped off, we have a second person inside of the vehicle. Now that person is going to have to press down on the brake pedal in a second here. What I'm going to do is I already have my collection receptacle underneath this area. I'm using my 14mm wrench. I'll make my way to one of my lines here. I'm going to crack this free. After that, we'll ask the person inside the vehicle to step down on the brake pedal. We're going to see a little bit of fluid and air making its way out in between the line fitting and that master cylinder. We'll close that fitting, ask the person to pump the brake one more time. They're going to hold it, and we're going to repeat this process until we see no air. Go ahead and step on that brake pedal, please. There we are. As you can see, there was a lot of fluid making its way out of there. I did hear some air. I'll close this. Go ahead and release. Let's do the other line real quick. Open that up. Go ahead and step on that. We're trying to replace any air with fluid. Let's close that. Now that he's released, I'm back to the first line. Let's open that up. Go ahead and step down, please. Now we could still see some air bubbles here. I'm going to close it. You can release. We'll make our way back over to the next one. Go ahead and step down. That one's looking real good. Close that. Now, you need to make sure you repeat this process as many times as necessary. It's important to make sure you remove as much air as possible from this area prior to making your way in and behind each wheel to your caliper bleeder screws. So repeat as necessary and then top off your master cylinder when you're done. Now we're done removing the air from up in this area. Let's make sure we clean any mess so we can remove our collection receptacle from under here prior to continuing on. I'm just going to use some parts cleaner. Now that I have this area cleaned down, I'm going to ask the person inside of the vehicle to pump up that brake pedal and hold it for me. I'm confirming there's no leaks from either one of my brake lines or brake line fittings at that master cylinder. Go ahead and press on the brake pedal, please. Yeah, those are perfect. We can continue on. Now we can connect that level sensor wiring harness that goes right in along this area here on the side of that master cylinder reservoir. Line it up with the locking tab facing up or pressing it in. After our audible click, we're just going to give this a light tug. We don't want to cause any damage, but you do want to make sure it's secured. This feels fine. Let's continue on. Now we can install our plastic cowl. Before doing so, just make sure you have not left anything down in this area, such as a collection receptacle or even a tool of some sort. Let's get that panel in place. Now, as for this panel, we're going to start resting it down. It should feel as though it wants to sit in, but I'm not pressing it in yet. I need to go over to the other side of the vehicle, make sure that's properly aligned as well. After that, we're going to continue on by pressing down along the windshield. There's several locking clips. We also have some push clips. All right, so it feels as though I'm aligned here. I'm just going to press this in. Now along each corner of this, next to the windshield, you have that small hooked tab. Once again, if you have a hard time getting a tool in here, you can carefully reach underneath and just gently twist it as necessary. I'm just going to use an angled pick, attempt to get underneath this area. I'm pressing down. I want to try to grab onto that hook, and then I'm just going to press it right underneath the windshield. It's that simple. We'll get our tool out of here. Now we'll just double check to make sure this is secure. Do the same on the other side. After that, we have our push clips making our way all the way across the entire front. For those push clips, we do have them across the front, but there is also one along each side, so let's just go ahead and start those in. If you're using the push clips that have the locking center, you drive in the outer portion first. After that, you can lock it in with the center. Now that we have the plastic cowl fully installed, it's time for our wiper blades and wiper arms. During the removal process, we marked the windshield so we know exactly where the wiper arms go, and we also know exactly which wiper arm goes where. I told you to take note of that as well. We have the driver's side wiper blade and arm on the driver's side of the vehicle. Now let's just make sure that arm is properly secured, and we'll protect the mounting hardware with its plastic protective cover. Line that up and press it right into the port there. We'll just double check to make sure we're aligned with our marking on the windshield. As I can see, perfectly aligned. I'm going to go over to the other side of the vehicle and do the exact same thing. Passenger side wiper arms going in place here. Now, if I had this rested down, you can tell that I'm entirely too low. If I was to power up these wiper blades, it's not going to function as it should. We want to make sure we're properly aligned. Now we'll just double check our alignment. This looks perfect as well. Okay friend, let's get started on our job. A quick note about doing this, you will have to have all 4 of your wheels removed. So safely raise and support your vehicle to remove all 4 wheels. After that, we're under the hood. Along the driver's side, we can see the master cylinder underneath this area. There's a small access panel up along the top. Take hold of the tab across the front. We'll lift this up and out of position. We just have several locking tabs on that. Should lift up and out of there. Now looking down in this area, we can see our master cylinder, our reservoir, and our cap. We're going to carefully clean around the cap. We'll remove as much fluid as possible and then fill the master cylinder reservoir with brand new .3 brake fluid. Take hold of that cap. We're turning it counterclockwise. You want to make sure the seal is still in good usable condition. It's not swollen, torn, or damaged in any way. We'll set that aside. Now continuing on, we need a fluid extraction device. We're going to try to remove as much fluid from inside of the master cylinder as possible. After that, we'll just fill it up with some clean .3 brake fluid to continue on. I get my little hose here. To help prevent from spilling in this area, I'm just going to use a small funnel. Let's use our clean .3 brake fluid. We're topping this off to the maximum line. Temporarily reinstall your reservoir cover so no miscellaneous debris makes its way inside that braking system. Now we're starting our bleed procedure. We're at the passenger side rear. Once we've completed bleeding this brake, we're going over to the driver's side and we're going to repeat this exact same process. Once we've completed that, we have to stop back underneath the hood at the master cylinder. We're going to top it off with some clean .3 brake fluid. We'll make our way to the passenger side front, and then we're ending at the driver's side front. Now I have a second person inside the vehicle. They're going to pump up the brake pedal for me. Once they have it pumped up, they're going to let me know they're holding it, and I'm at my bleeder screw on the rear caliper. I'm going to open this up. We're waiting to see a steady trickle of fluid making its way out with no air bubbles. The whole point of this is to have clean brake fluid and no air. Go ahead and pump up the brake pedal, please. Go ahead and pump. Go ahead and pump. Go ahead and pump. Go ahead and pump. You can release, thank you. Now at this point, I've had several attempts of bleeding the brakes and I had only clean brake fluid making its way out with no air. So I'm sure that I fully bled this brake. Go ahead and clean any mess, and if you have a bleeder screw cover, go ahead and install that right afterward. So this brake is done. I'm going over to the driver's side. I'm going to repeat this exact same process, and then I'll meet you at that master cylinder so we can top it off. Under the hood, we're back at that master cylinder. Let's go ahead and top it off once again up to that maximum line. That looks good for now. We will be making our way back here in the end to do our final top off. Now both rear brakes are bled and I've already topped off my master cylinder, so I'm at the passenger side front next. Along the back side of the caliper is where we're going to find our bleeder screw. Go ahead and remove your cover, assuming you have one, and we'll continue on with our 10mm here. We're going to have that same exact bleeding process. Go ahead and pump up the brake pedal, please. Go ahead and pump. Go ahead and pump. Go ahead and pump. You can release thank you. Now, I bled this brake several times. I have only clean brake fluid and no air. Repeat the process as necessary on your application. After that, just go ahead and clean up any mess, reinstall your bleeder screw cover, and then make your way over to the driver's side front. You're going to do this exact same thing. After that, you're back at that master cylinder for a final top off. All those brakes are bled. We're back under the hood here. Clean .3 brake fluid all the way up to the maximum line. Let's just put a little bit more in here. There we are. Remove that funnel. Reinstall our cap. We're just going to make sure we clean up any mess from in this area, especially if any brake fluid made its way onto a painted surface. If for some reason some brake fluid did, you can use some clean water to clean it off. Now, as for this plastic protective cover, we want to start by the backside. We have 2 hooked ridges. Go ahead and start them in, and then we'll press this down along the front and the outboard side. There's 3 locking tabs. Okay, friend, we finished the installation of our vehicle's master cylinder, and we've bled the brakes and cleaned any mess. Now, the next thing you need to do is just make sure you have no brake fluid leaks from anywhere and take your vehicle for a road test. Thanks for watching.
When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.